Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Joe Naz Podcast. Today, I am super excited to have Vito Glazers, correct?
That's me.
Yes,
Yep.
fantastic. I'm excited to have you on the podcast today. We got connected through my social media manager, Alex Draknick, and I am stoked because I had an opportunity to really do a deep dive on you in the last couple of days, and you've lived many lifetimes. It sounds like you've also been screwed over many times, but you've also bounced back every single time stronger than ever. And one of the biggest themes that I love to talk about on the podcast is, what are the things that you learned from your mistakes? What are the things that you learned from when you got screwed over? What are the things that you took away from that? Because, when you're having success and everything's going well, you don't learn, you don't grow, you don't change. But I think changing and growing and all these things that are failures, every failure is an opportunity to learn something, apply it, and then become better. So it sounds like you've been through a lot of things, and instead of it crushing you, you're able to recover quickly and you're able to learn and get to the next step very efficiently. So I want to say thank you so much for being here. And I know that was a lot all at once, but I'm really stoked to have you.
Well, I'm grateful to be here. And you might not know this, but I've been doing media for 15 years. And I always said I wanted to go on the Joe Naz podcast. So here we are.
Thank you.
Dreams do come true, guys. That's the first thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And this is coming from someone who's spoken on hundreds of stages, and he's met some of the most successful people on the planet. So I appreciate the compliment. It's very kind of you.
There you go.
And so what I want to do is, for those of you that might not know Vito, I want to give a little bit of an intro. I want to share some of the things that we might go over today, or just to give them some high level of some of the things that you've been through.
Cool.
And then just to give them a little bit of introduction.
Let's do it.
So Vito Glazers is an American media entrepreneur, producer, author, actor, and international television personality, most known for his appearances on WeTV, Bravo, and Netflix reality shows. Alongside his on-screen endeavors, Vito Glazers is highly regarded as an expert on news, television, and film production, and specializes in reputation management, public relations, influencer, and celebrity marketing. So that's the high-level bio. Some of the major...
Very good reading.
Very good reading.
Very good reading.
I mean, you did a great job. You should be amazed. Some of the bios that I get from people, I have to rewrite the entire thing.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you're a public speaker, right? And you go to a lot of things. So you've had your bio, I'm sure, ready, where something that you can just present like that. So you did a good, short, to the point bio.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And also, don't watch any of those shows on WeTV, Bravo, or Netflix if you can avoid them. They're all equally. They're one's worse than the next. Yeah,
Got it. But I'm sure you learned a lot from them.
Yeah, I had a mentor. He told me, if you can't be the best at being the worst in content. That's a content thing.
Yeah.
Because he's like, look, you're never going to be Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
So he's like, if you're trying to look like super professional, right, and you're competing with this level, he's like, you don't have the capital and the resources to do that. So he's like, if you're the best at being the worst, people only remember one of the two.
Yeah.
So you remember the best meal of your life and you remember the worst meal of your life. And there's a lot of meals in between.
Yeah.
So he's like, if you're trying to be memorable, that was actually the advice he gave me.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, be the worst, but he was like,
No.
if you want to be memorable,
Yeah.
either be the best or be the best at being the worst.
Yeah.
And if you do it intentionally, sometimes it can kind of be funny and work.
100%. It's like you're almost just niching down. You're like, look, we're never going to be Steven Spielberg,
Right.
but we can be the best at being this off-brand comedy, or we can be the best at this specific type of thing.
Yep.
And so it's great advice. It's something that I think a lot of people, if they learned at a younger age, it would bring them a lot of success.
Yeah, I think it just chills people out because I was on the show Below Deck on Bravo.
Okay.
And
what is the premise of that show?
Below Deck, it's about like snobby, hilarious rich people they charter yachts, and then it follows like the cast or the crew. It follows the crew.
Were you on the crew?
I was in, no, I was the guest. Okay. So I was like, I'm going to make this the worst episode of reality television in history. It ended up being the highest rated season finale of all time for the show. I still don't think anybody's beat the ratings.
Oh my God.
It airs constantly.
Okay.
I
Can
did
I
a show
ask you
like
a question
10
about
years ago.
ratings?
Yeah.
How do the ratings work, and how do you know that this was the highest ratings of any season finale?
So I just went off the press release that Universal put out, but they get their ratings from Nielsen, which is some kind of tracking system that they use. They basically have segmented individuals where they put this, like, I actually was in the Nielsen focus group, which anyways, I'll go into my conspiracy theory about Nielsen later, but Nielsen basically puts a device on your TV.
Okay.
And they have like 10,000 people, and they put the tracking device, and then it shows the tracking habits. And it's essentially what they're doing is they identify you as like a representation of a segment.
Okay.
and then basically whatever you're watching. It's such a flawed science. It's really crazy how TV and radio ratings, how flawed the tracking is.
And so this is something that you have to sign up for and you get paid to be tracked?
I don't remember being paid. maybe I got like some free DirecTV or something. But
Yeah,
then I found out that Nielsen was actually started by a former head of the FBI or something, and I kind of felt like they just wanted to put this like recording device in my house, so maybe paranoid. I got rid of it.
Got it. That's very fair.
Not that I had anything to hide.
Yeah, I mean, I just figure with technology nowadays, they'd be able to see what you're watching anyways, or at least be able to pull the data that this person has this running at this time, right?
Yeah.
I can't imagine that it would have been very different with streaming cable. They should have had the same information, but maybe it just wasn't in one giant network where they could pool all the information together. So it would have been different pools, and that wouldn't be as accurate.
Yeah, I think they cross-reference streams, these like Nielsen boxes, and I think a lot of it is just kind of like estimated, you know. It's really crazy because I get reached out to by these public relations companies and they're like, we can get you in publications that are read by 4 billion people a year or a month. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, well, Forbes is maybe read by, 100 million people a month, but that article isn't going to, that you publish about me is not going to be. So there's like a big misconception between the like total reach or potential reach and what the actual reach is. So
Gotcha. So I'm guessing that the rating is simply based off of the amount of people that tuned into that episode based out of that population of 10,000.
Yeah. And then somehow they estimated that it got 2 million people tuned into it.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how that data was analyzed, but I will tell you, it was getting me recognized at the grocery store. And that's interesting because I've had like viral videos, right? Like on social media where like, probably the biggest one, my ex-wife and I we did about 100. I think we had one that did like 10 million views.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting recognized at the grocery store for that, but 2 million views on Bravo was getting me like recognized at Starbucks.
Got it. And so I guess my question is, what did you do different that you got this to be such a high rating ending, and what like type of thinking led you to the actions that you chose to do on the show?
So the mindset I went into with was, we're just going to be the biggest douchebags ever, because everybody tries to be cool on that show. Yeah. So I was like, I don't want to be cool. I'm just going to be like, I went into heel mode. Heels are like in WWF wrestling. So you're either the hero or the heel. Okay. The heel's kind of like the bad guy. Okay. So I was like, I know what I'm here for. I know what the show's about. I know what they want. I'm just going to go all in on it. Yeah. And basically I probably said some things that have disqualified me from ever running for president. But in the interim, luckily the editors they knew what I was doing, and the producers really, I think they really appreciated what we were creating.
You gave them a show.
We gave them a show.
Yeah.
And we had a great time.
It's show business.
We terrorized the crew. That's what they wanted us to do. And so instead of being the best guest, I did my best to be the worst guest.
Okay, but I respect it because it's like, I mean, I know from just speaking to people that are in the industry how real reality TV is, and that's it. It's like they want something entertainment. Yeah, they wait to tell people, or they will tell people things that they shouldn't tell them because they want to see their reaction. Right. So at the end of the day, if you went in there just knowing that you were going to make this the best episode possible by being what you thought was going to be the best addition to the team, I have a lot of respect for that. You played your role perfectly, and that's how you do it. Just from the short conversation we've had, you're not a complete douchebag. So I know that it was a good role you were playing, but I'm sure you did a great job. Now I'm kind of want to go watch this episode at some point.
When you come out as the heel, what people don't realize is, nobody wants to be the bad guy. Everybody wants to be cool and like in a perfect light. Yeah. When you get the platform, it's cool. I think the move, any like young creators that I talk to and stuff, I'm like, if you get the chance to be the bad guy, that's where you want to come out. Yeah. You want to be the bad guy. You want people to hate on you. Then you ride the hate or comments, because hate is like a more negatively charged emotion. People are more likely to write something negative, especially on social media. Yeah. So if you can get people hating on you, writing negative things about it, not only do you get more viral, but then you have the opportunity to do the redemption arc, where you can come out and actually be like, hey, guess what? I'm not a douchebag. Unless you are a douchebag, then
stay with it.
Then you're just Martin Scrutiny or whatever, right? Like, but those guys are cool. I don't know. I think they do a great job of having impact. Look like you got to be memorable. Yeah. That's the thing in an information warfare culture where we're at, and everybody's out here just trying to be cool and trying to look perfect on the internet.
No, that was a conversation I was having with somebody literally yesterday where I was talking about the fact that a lot of the people that I respect the most, especially in the podcast world, are people that have opinions. They're
Yeah.
people that are not just sitting in the middle on everything because they're not trying to piss anybody off to the left and the right.
Yeah.
And I was reflecting on the fact that I've had to make choices on what my stances are on certain subjects where before I even almost was trying to be politically correct myself, but it's forced me to have an opinion, to figure out what my values are, to figure out what I believe in, and it's been amazing. And so it's been a great process going through that. And so, yeah, I have a lot of respect for people that know who they are and what they want. And I guess, just asking you, when you said, like, embrace the, almost like being the asshole on that show, do you feel that it hurt you in other ways to, like, get roles because you acted this way, or do you think that once everybody gets to know you, they know you're not like that?
So this is the reality of it, right? So you have to be able to leverage it no matter what. But it never. Here's what happened: is people just saw me on TV, and that makes them want to work with me when my job is to get them on TV, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think people really care that much about what you're actually saying if your goal is to get a lot of attention, right? Now, if it depends what the call to action is, but for me, it was a straight branding play. I'm like, I need a lot of people to know who I am. Before that, I did some commentary on CBS News, and I like went and said some crazy stuff about like Trump and immigration, and I was getting like the death threats on Twitter, but then I like went viral from that. So I've just been I've known how to poke the bear, and I've helped a lot of influencers kind of zone in on being polarizing, right? Because it's nobody's gonna get famous from like playing the middle, you know? So it goes back to this PR strategy I learned a long time ago. We call it newsjacking, where you take like a trending story in the media and you put out some like controversial opinion about it in order to kind of surf that story and get your chance to kind of implant yourself into that media conversation.
Got it.
And so
it's like similar techniques that people use now to gain their followings on social media. Something's popular and it's trending.
Yeah.
You're just basically
you jump on the trend. But I would jump on the trend the other way, and I would jump on the trend and then go against the grain. Right, and say like something almost, even if I didn't necessarily, wasn't like my full-on opinion, like the Trump thing. It was when he did this like immigration ban, and I was like, I said something along the lines of, we need to like ban, like the ban wasn't big enough or something. We need to like ban everybody, and then that's when people were on there, but then you get your redemption arc, right? So then I went back and I actually got to like break down what I actually said. And I was like, no, I didn't say that we need to like ban immigrants. I'm not anti-immigrant. It was just, we do need to have, some protections, and there does need to be a better path to legal immigration, right? And legal immigration. But of course, like people who are never going to see things your way, they're always going to take the sound clip. And they're going to run with it no matter what. And the people who relate to you are just going to be more bonded to you and more strengthened to you because you went out there and said something that might have been on their mind that they're scared to say. So for me, it's about identifying like the 51% of the audience that actually is going to support you anyway. You're never going to win 100% of the audience over. So if you have the opportunity to like piss off that other half that's never going to buy from you anyway, and in the process, it's going to strengthen the relationship with the other half of the audience that is going to amplify you and actually support you anyway, those are opportunities that we always try to jump on.
I never heard anybody try to do this before to explain it like that. It's actually amazing. Obviously, everyone tries to tell you to talk about what you believe in, but you're using polarizing techniques to get the attention of everybody because you already have the attention of your people, but you haven't gotten the attention of everybody else.
Right.
And then you're like, I get scared of the thought of it because I'm like, well, won't I scare away my people? But no, they're already your people. And then you have an opportunity to explain yourself later. And if they're wise, they'll see that it's also an attention grab, which is like, it's just part of you building your brand and growing. Yeah.
Look at who it's working for. Like the Tates did it perfectly. My ex-wife, Tori Herman, she just like went all in against men. It completely amplified her. She basically was like the reverse Tates. So Tates kind of went the misogynist route, got amplified through that because by pissing women off, they really strengthened their connection to like the male following. But then they kind of went back, and you break down some of the stuff they say, it's not really like that misogynistic, right? Like some of it you can tell is super clickbait. When you take just a tiny
soundbite, it sounds horrible.
And then Tori went the other way, and she basically went all in against men, right? And that amplified the loyalty of her female following. And the thing is, men are never going to buy from her anyway because she doesn't sell a single thing to men. And Tates, I don't think really care who buys from them, but Trump does the same thing, right? He just like
Yeah.
polarizes. He just rallies up his base. People who hate Trump are never gonna like come over to Trump, right? Like even he could like give them. He can even like. It's so funny. I don't want to use the like V word on here. The VACKS word right over here.
You can talk about it if you want. But
Well, it'll just like flag it, right? So let's just use the vax as an example. You can beep it out. But liberals hated Trump so bad that when they don't know that Trump is the one who put the vaccine out, right? So when the vaccine came out, it was a Trump project. It was Operation Warp Speed. And liberals were like, this vaccine is dangerous. It's horrible. And then as soon as Trump was out and Biden was pushing the vaccine, they were like, we need more of these vaccines. They're not, like these are safe and healthy and effective, and we need to shut your business down if you're not vaccinated, right? So that is just an interesting thing. It's like literally it's two of the exact same things. They're never going to accept anything from Trump, but then the other side says it. So those are the people that you don't have to worry about winning over, but you can surf them, right? You can literally use them. I call it surfing your audience, because you can get those negative comments to amplify you and ride you to the top, and then you just ride the haters to the top.
That's
and then
amazing.
That gets you in front of the audience of people that believe in what you believe in that would have never seen you otherwise.
Yeah. So. I'm really glad that I had you on here, because after watching your videos, I was like, I didn't understand how you were having such great success with others, but I've never heard of anybody using these techniques that you essentially are trying to get the haters involved, because the haters are the ones that are more polarized, and it would make sense that the more intense the reaction and the more intense the polarization, the more attention you're going to get. And even if it's bad attention, it's still, it helps bolster the people that care about you, because they're like, look at all these haters and all these people that are saying negatives, and then it's giving you attention now from both sides and not just one side.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, it's about what you do with it, right? So you have to know how to monetize it.
Yeah.
If you're not getting paid, then what's the point? But
you make a good point. One of the videos you sent me, which literally talked about this topic, and if you don't mind talking about it again,
let's break it down.
I'll talk about like kind of my story a little bit. So I'm kind of rebuilding my social media right now. I did do some paid things that you talked about in the beginning, and I had got my followers up to like 40,000, but they weren't engaging. And so it was actually hurting me more than it was helping me that I'd bought all those followers. And so I basically paid for like legit money for someone to do a shout out that was in a similar field that was like, follow Joe. And so I got all these followers, but no one was engaging on my stuff. If anything, it was like hurting me because less people were seeing my things.
Right.
But you said that you've done something similar in the past, and then you have a step-by-step plan of what you should do after.
Yeah, so we break it down. Essentially, I'll walk you through our process of whenever somebody's like, I want to be famous. Okay, first step is why. It's not fun. It's really annoying. I've had some conversation with influencers. I feel like I'm at like this perfect level of notability.
And what's your motto, real quick? Because we never talked about this. Your motto, when I got the message, I was like, this is going to be an amazing conversation.
So Glazers Media, we make rich people famous and we make famous people rich. And so how we make famous people rich is if you have a large audience, we work with you to create a brand that is going to create recurring cash flow that outlives your fame, because all fame is temporary. Like name one movie star from 1920.
I can't.
Right. Like whether you're Hitler or Mother Teresa, the world is going to forget about you eventually. And history gets rewritten a million times. So there's like to pursue fame, like everybody wants to be on Wikipedia. Nobody's going to care about Wikipedia in 100 years. Like people used to like you won't recognize one single name on that Hollywood Walk of Fame. You walk for 20 minutes. So fame, such a fleeting, low vibration goal to chase, right? Popularity, unless you're using it for impact, influence, and ideally to like make a living, then it makes sense, right? So I like the idea of fame. I don't really even call it fame anymore. I refer to it as notability, because I don't think people are famous anymore. It's really like Kim Kardashian's famous. You've got like a handful of famous people, but as those people kind of disappear and wean off, the next level of celebrity is just going to be notable people, right? So you're going to have like your politicians, your Olympic athletes, your athletes, your musicians, mainstream musicians, your actors, which even actors, I don't even know like the last like 4 people that played Spider-Man. And I love Spider-Man movies, right?
That's funny. Like, I don't know their names either.
Actors have just like, I don't like Batman still, they kind of get some famous people in there. They do the PR good on there. But, like actors, just if you're getting into acting to get famous, you miss the boat by like 30 years, you know? So it's very unlikely for people to actually become famous at anything, but you can become notable.
Yeah.
You can be like, oh, I'm that guy from that show, or I'm, the musician that had that song, or so especially as more people get access to platforms and like we get media in different ways. It was easy to be famous when there was 3 channels, right? You had CBS, ABC, NBC, and everybody watched it, and whoever was on those was famous, right? So now it's like you could literally be famous on like one platform, right? Like TikTok famous, Instagram famous, but what's the point, right? So the point, that sounds like it's a negative time to be a creator, but on the flip side, audiences are bigger than ever. Yeah. So you can actually have 10 million people follow you and not be famous, right? Yeah. And but what's the point of having 10 million followers? I do this thing called the 50 t-shirt test. If you can't sell 50 t-shirts, you have no influence, right? So I did a 50 t-shirt test. We sold a couple hundred. I did like app download. We do brand deals, and people are always like talking shit, and they're like, "Oh, your followers are fake." I can get 1,000 app downloads. Can these OnlyFans girls do that, right? Like, can they sell 50 t-shirts? So, to me, it's about like, what can you do with that audience? So to me,
got it. You're saying there's an actual influence in the decision making of your guests.
Yes.
Not just the fact of having people that are following you, but you actually can influence what they do and how they do it.
And I think that's the important thing. So to me, when I saw the opportunity to do social media,
I agree with
before social media, I was building my email list.
Yeah.
That was like kind of the thing. I had 13,000 people on my email list. From those 13,000 people, it was niched out to like business opportunity, and we were teaching people how to do like affiliate marketing and taking commissions on it. We were able to generate over $10 million from a 13,000 person list. So what is the end game, right? Like, do you want to have 10 million followers and not be able to sell 50 t-shirts?
No.
Or would you rather have 10,000 people on an email list and make millions of dollars from it?
Yeah. That's
kind of what we're showing creators how to do now. So we call it follow the money, step 1. It's reverse engineer your audience, find an audience that has pain, and maybe some kind of solution that you can offer them. Content has to be educational or entertaining, or ideally both. And then in that process, you build your audience by solving problems for them with your content, and then you're directing them into something that's going to pay money. Okay. So that could be anything from, it could be premium subscription model. It could be a course, it could be a book. Yeah. It could be a film that, like you get paid on. Yeah. As an entrepreneur.
Read ClickFunnels.
Yeah, basically, right? It's that's why ClickFunnels is so successful, and you see these guys like Russell Brunson, Alex Hormozi, we're all preaching the same language.
They're all saying the same thing a different way.
Audience, content, monetization. Yeah. And that's what we're doing. Like, people who want to be big on social media.
And levels to your monetization.
Yeah, they think like most creators, when they get into it, they think they're going to get like rich from like YouTube payouts. Yeah. Right. They're like, oh, TikTok creator fund's going to pay me so much. Most of the influencers I know that are really doing this full time make less than 5% of their income from those platform sources.
God, they're doing it from like brand deals or from selling a product or creating their own product.
Exactly. So that's that's how we help make rich people famous. Is we'll like create that. We'll identify the audience and just be like, what everyday products do this audience use? Like, do they drink wine? Then like, let's create your own wine brand. Do they? What kind of products do they use? Let's just make a branded version of that. Make them fall in love with the product because they love you, so you have that platform. And then when you're not famous anymore, they're still going to love your product. It's like George Clooney with Casamigos is a great example, right? Like, a lot of people don't even know it's his product. Yeah. So, and that's actually what made him put those guys in the billionaire ranking. Like, Ryan Reynolds is another great guy to follow. He put his, he leveraged his aviation personal brand. Yeah. He got the gin, he got the cell phone, and MVNO going. He got the soccer team. So now he's placed his money there. When nobody knows who Ryan Reynolds is, people will already be using those brands, and they don't even care if it's his. It's just a great quality product. Yeah. They use his name to leverage it. Yeah. So we do those kind of celebrity collaborations. Yeah. So we work both ways. So for the celebrities, we'll help build them the brand and build them the deal. But for brands, they come to us as well, and they're like, hey, how do we make this a household name? Yeah. Okay, well, let us get some big celebrities on there for you and figure out who's actually going to get the right audience talking about your product, subscribing to it. And
Got
falling
it.
in love with
So
it.
like if somebody has a product, you're going to find a celebrity that aligns with the values of
Yep.
that product.
Yep.
Then because it's going to create more product sales.
Yep.
And then when you do create those deals, is it like there's a certain price depending on their level of followers, or is there a certain price depending on how much they believe in the product, or does it depend on every single deal?
It depends on every deal. It's a really hard pricing structure, but what I
Hard
try to
pricing
do.
structure, meaning like it's expensive, or you're very specific about what you charge?
No, it's expensive. It's not specific on that side. It's just a lot of work to get the celebrities involved because they're getting tons of offers and stuff. So we try to create a deal, but then I also wanted to back out for the brand, right? So like, let's say a basketball player wants like $1 million to do the deal, and the brand wants to do it, but I'm like, we have to break down the math, right? So we're like, for example, we have this one client we're doing this for right now. We're bringing on like 10 celebrities. So it's like a $5 million deal.
Okay.
And I'm breaking it down for them. We're looking and we're like, okay, the call to action is basically to get people to go from their phone to a center, like a storefront, and subscribe to this like $100 a month alternative health service, right? And the average person that goes and subscribes for the service ends up spending $1,000 a year or $1,200 a year. So I'm like, how many $1,200 a year do we need to make this thing back out within the year? So everybody wants Joe Rogan, right? That's like 10 times a week. We get 10 lead submissions a week because we know how to work with Spotify. We can get the deal done. So everybody wants Joe Rogan. So I'm like, okay, so for this particular pitch, they wanted like $2 million to be like the opening offer before it like even was considered. So I said, okay, well then do you think you're going to get 2,000 people from Joe Rogan's podcast to go into the center and sign up? If you do, then you break even on that.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, I feel that it's pretty safe to say that having Joe Rogan being on his podcast, having his voice promoting it, and having the rights to publicity to use him in your ads for 1 year, I said, I'm pretty sure you can get 200 people a month into your pipeline, if not more, right? So if you get 500 people a month, you double your money.
Does he post it on his also, or is that's a whole different thing?
That's where the negotiation goes into, and that's where working with a company like Glazers Media, because my background is in direct response, if you work with because my background is in direct response, we are able to create these campaigns in a way that are most beneficial to not just the celebrity, but also the brand.
Yeah.
Now, most times you call the agent, they're just like, pay me, here's your video, blah, 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 right? Like people don't understand really important things in a celebrity deal are one is like really mapping out and specifying the deliverables. Two is locking in what's called rights to publicity. So just because they post you on their Instagram doesn't mean you have the right to use that in your ads. And so people pay millions of dollars for Kardashian deals and stuff, and then use the Kardashian video in their thing, and they're like, oh, we paid for this. Kardashians are like, you didn't pay to use it in your ad. You just paid me to post it.
Got it.
You know? So we protect brands in that element.
That's so interesting. I understand the legalities of it being an attorney. I also think it's a bit fucked up and weird that people would do that. It's like they just paid you to do that, but you figured that it would be part of the package deal, but also if you're just not intelligent, and that's the wrong term. If you're not legally savvy, then you're not going to know to ask for those things.
Or just experience, right? Because obviously I made 10 mistakes before I learned how to figure that out. So now we know what to ask for. And that's why, one of the crazy things, for example, like when it comes to Kardashian deals and Joe Rogan and stuff like that, these people do not want to post brands on their page. It dilutes them. So we've actually found that the biggest value in working with celebrities is not getting them to like post on their Instagram, because Kim Kardashian goes and posts something on her Instagram and gets some traffic, but people aren't scrolling Instagram being like, I really wanted to buy this $10,000 product today now that I've seen it, right? It's not like a fast response anymore. So the real value, I tell clients, don't even waste your money on getting them to post. Get them to make the video for you, get the rights to publicity, and run it on your social media pages with programmatic direct response advertising to their audience. So the audience doesn't care where the page is, and then you can get them into the retargeting funnel, and then people are like, oh, I follow Kim Kardashian. Here's Kim Kardashian on another page. I'm going to look at the product. Okay, I'm not ready to buy it now, but they've clicked your thing, and then you can hit them with ads ongoing. That's the way, in my opinion, to crush celebrity marketing.
I think that's the perfect way
And
to do it.
the celebrities love it because the celebrities don't have to post it on their page.
Yeah.
So they don't care.
It doesn't dilute their brand.
No.
Got it. So when you got in touch with these individuals like the Kardashians or Joe Rogan, like this is something that you already had relationships that you could get in connection with these people and you knew their agents, or did you have a process where you just knew how to reach out to them, like either email or texting, or like what did you do to get in touch with those people?
So because we make rich people famous, I have a really good reputation. When the phone rings and it's coming from my office, people know there's like a bag on the other end.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it. It's just reputation, really. You know, and reputation is like the golden nugget of doing business at high level in 2024 when everybody's got followers, everybody's got money.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, reputation's everything.
Got it. And so I guess to understand people, so that people can understand this story and understand what you're talking about. Remember you texted me a bit about your story. You said that when you were 25 years old, you created an agency that was doing $10 million in ads.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I mean, at 25 years old, that's a pretty astounding feat. And then you said that even your partner disappeared and literally stole all the money to the Bahamas, but you're able to pull yourself off of it. So I'm interested in hearing about that because at 25 years old, I didn't know my head from my ass. And I definitely was not running a $10 million agency.
It was actually, it's really crazy, especially because I still to this day, I can like barely set up my email on my iPhone. So I've just been like a good delegator. Yeah. When I was in my early 20s, I met a really good friend. Actually, his office is in this building.
That's amazing.
They're running like a big mass tour thing here.
All right.
But we used to do, we got into affiliate marketing. I won't tell you the offer because it was a little scandalous, but you can find it out there, what we were doing. But we were the #1 affiliate in this offer. And basically how we found it was his little brother basically like dropped out of high school and was making like $300 a day, which to us was like a lot of money.
Yeah, of course.
Right? We're like working the phones in a call center, trying to make like $20 an hour, right? We're teenagers. And we're like, how are you making $300 a day? So we basically found out he had found this method to like post ads and get like commissions. And he was kind of doing like affiliate marketing, right? So then I was like, well, he's sitting there on the computer all day. I was like, we could probably automate this. So we created essentially kind of these like almost AI autoresponders that like based on people's replies would send them like different email replies. Boom, we scale this thing to like 50 grand a day at one point in revenue.
Jesus.
It wasn't all profit. And so we got...
That's still pretty serious money.
It was crazy. Yeah. I think we were like 22 then. 22. They moved us to LA from Chicago. We moved out to LA. We're like consulting them. Like these old guys that have been doing this. These guys they've never gotten more than like, you know, they thought 10 sales a day was like a huge whale.
Yeah, did you have like a background in like computer science? Did you know
my
how to
partner
write
did.
this?
My friend did.
Got it. So
he was
you
like
came up with the idea and you're like, this is what we should do. And he knew how to put it together. This is part of the delegation story.
It's basically what it was. It was like he kind of brought like the tech side. I brought like the human emotional intelligence aspect to it.
Yeah.
And then between the two of us, we grew. It was like a really good partnership.
Is this the partner that ended up screwing you?
No, this was my original partner. We ended up everybody kind of screwed me, but this partner made it right. So we were just making so much money and we were killing it. We're living the Hollywood life, right? Like going out every weekend, having a great time. We built this company out huge. And then we did have some issues with like credit card processing. My partner, he kind of got screwed and then in the process screwed me. But years later, he acknowledged that I had been screwed, paid me all the money back. It was a couple $100,000. It wasn't a big deal with him. Yeah. So we straightened it out then. But in the process of that company falling apart, I went and took everything I knew and I kind of left that and I went off on my own. I started more like this mainstream ad network, right? And we were competing. We were essentially like an alternative for Google AdSense. So you know how Google AdSense, like you put the AdSense thing on your website and like they broker the clicks, right? So ours was just much more targeted and direct. So it was like if you had a dating website, instead of putting like AdSense on there where you were gonna get like 50 cents and then Google was gonna like sell your click to like 10 different places, we could get like Match.com to put the direct ad on there and then you get like $4 for that same targeted click. So we were essentially like arbitraging the opportunity to like eliminate Google for publishers to eliminate Google AdSense.
Okay.
So it was simple yet complicated.
Yeah, very technical.
So that's where I built this email list where I had like 13,000 publishers on there. And these people were really like, how do I get every penny out of my clicks, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of became like this little influencer in that realm where people like would come to us and they were like, well, I've got all this traffic. How do I make money from it, right?
Yeah.
And I have a crazy story, like 16-year-old kid had figured out some like glitch in Facebook and he was getting like 100,000 hits an hour or something. He's like, how do I make money from this? And I showed him how to put like basically a landing page up in Capture. And we were like selling the emails to this like these co-registration paths. And he made 100.
What's a co-registration path?
Co-registration path is like you basically like they lure you in with like a Walmart gift card, right?
Okay.
And they're like, get a $500 Walmart gift card, just enter your email. And then they're like, well, there's one more step. Now you have to sign up to get an insurance quote. And then once you sign up for the insurance quote, then you have to sign up to get DirecTV. You have to sign up for so that basically what happens is you have to register for like 50 things to get the prize. So what they're doing is they're getting affiliate commissions. So they're getting $50 from the insurance company. They're getting $50 from the DirecTV. So you sign up for the 10 offers, and that's how they can send you the gift cards. So anyways, I think the government like shut down a bunch of those anyway.
Yeah, but that's interesting. I didn't know how it worked before.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense why you have to go down that path and how
Yep.
they can give you the gift card. Because I did hear of some people that are like, well, I got it. I also
Yep.
got a bunch of viruses.
Yeah.
But I
Right,
got
because they're
it.
like, download the VPN. Dude.
Yeah.
So they basically, the advertiser, or the agency, so to speak, so we would be the agency, right? Like we would stack the offers to essentially be like, all right, if you complete all these offers, we'll have, even though they're free to you, so it is a free gift card, right?
Yeah.
You'll have generated us $600 in commissions, so we can give you the $500 gift card. Now, what we're banking on is people giving up 50% of the way through, and then being like, well, we've already made $300 in commissions,
and then you don't have to give anything.
Then we don't have to give the
then
prize.
they're making money on the front end and the back end.
Right. So that's where it becomes very lucrative. But
I had a side question for you.
Yeah.
I know you've told your story hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Do you ever get sick of telling it? I know it's a very random side question.
Well, okay, so now let's pull this back to our 3-part strategy, okay?
Okay.
So number 1 is follow the money, figure out how you make money.
Yeah.
How I make money is I sell public relations, social media, and content marketing services, right? And I like to think we're the best.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if you're not trying to be the best, you can be the worst. I don't want to be the biggest, but I do think we are the best. So part 2 is then learning your story. Because there's a million PR companies.
Yeah.
There's a million lawyers. But people buy from the story, right? The story is the brand, right?
Yeah.
So when you go to Target and you're like, oh, this is Jessica Alba's Honest brand. I'm going to buy these diapers for twice the price. You're buying the story,
Yeah.
right? So this is why I'm telling the story.
Yeah.
And then number 3, step 3 of the process is amplification.
Yeah.
Once you've got your story down and you realize that every time you tell your story, you sell your product,
Yeah.
then your job is to tell your story as many times as possible.
Got it.
And then you want to do podcasts, you want to do press, you want celebrities to talk about you.
Yeah.
Then you want every opportunity possible to put your story out, because in some capacity, it's crazy, my ROI on going on podcasts, we almost always I don't run any Facebook ads at all.
Yeah.
I don't run one cold ad. But if I do like every podcast, I would not be surprised if I got a client with a lifetime value of $100,000 from doing this show with you today.
Yeah.
Even if you only have 500 people listening.
Yeah.
Because it might be your competitor who's a lawyer who listens. Because the whole thing is in the process of the story where people might not understand everything I'm saying, but they're like, this guy knows what he's talking about.
100%.
You know, and then they're
It's
like,
funny you said that. There was a part where you were talking about
Yeah.
the Google click thing.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't understand everything he's saying, but I trust him, and he definitely knows what he's fucking talking about.
Yeah.
So you're nailing it on the head there.
So they're like, this guy knows what he's talking about, and I need somebody who knows what he's talking about, and I have a way of like simplifying things, right? So everything with me is like 3-part step, 4-part step. So step 1, follow the money, we build the offer. Step 2, we build the story. Step 3, we tell that story as many places as possible to direct people back to the offer.
Okay.
Outside of that, I don't see any reason why anybody would even want to be on social media.
Yeah.
Right? Like I would never have social media. I hate social media. I don't follow anybody. I don't care what people are doing.
Yeah. Some people just want to
Yeah.
be heard is a big part of it. And,
Yeah.
I think that it's important when you're growing up, especially like a lot of people, their parents might not be listening, their family might not be listening. So it gives them a platform. So not everybody's thinking to make money from it, but I agree with you that I use it as a tool. If I want to be heard, this is a place for me to be heard, but it's also being used as a tool to hopefully make me money on my, on social, like through my law firm itself too. But at the same time, there is just like beauty and also sharing stories and getting that impact. So, but at the end of the day, why am I putting so much time and effort into it? I hope that it does result in helping people and having an impact, but also I do hope that residual benefit is that it will help my personal brand, which will help my businesses and the things that I believe in.
And that's important. But here's the thing is that money is I have to like retrain artists' brains all the time.
Yeah.
Because they have this negative relationship with money, right? Like artists are like, oh, I don't want money because I'm going to sell out. But here's the thing you have to understand about money. Even if you don't care about money, you need money to validate your impact. Yeah. Because when you tell your story, if people aren't willing to pay for it, that means they don't value it. Yeah. Right? So like you have to see the world through a lens of like, okay, if I want to sell my art, it only is real if somebody is willing to buy it. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just doing what you think is cool. Number one mistake creators make is they do what they think is cool. They don't give the audience what the audience is asking for. And that's where people come up with the term like sellout. So sellout is like you don't do anything at all for yourself and you're just only selling out to your audience, right? Yeah. But if you can find a crossroads of what you love, but also validate it through the audience being able to purchase it from you, the way money works, nobody gives people money unless they feel that the value that they're getting in return is worth more than the money they're giving you, right? So people don't like to overpay for things. Yeah. But if you're creating content and people are willing to pay for it, that means you're doing it right. In fact, everybody can call themselves an influencer now, right? You can have 100 followers and be an influencer, but people ask me a lot on these podcasts, they're like, how do you define what an influencer is? To me, I'm like, if they make money. If they make money from it, they're an influencer. If you have 100 followers and each one's giving you $1,000 a year or $1,000 a month, you're more of an influencer than a guy with 1 million followers who can't sell 50 t-shirts. Yeah. Right? So money is very important to validate it, validate the level of impact you're having. Because money, listen, if you want to have impact, like having some money to throw at it doesn't hurt. Having money to advertise, having money to like hire administrators, like that's how you grow your impact. Yeah. Right.
And I think a lot of times the goal is that you do want to have a greater impact if that's what you're trying to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, you're absolutely correct. Like, if I didn't feel that I was getting a residual monetary benefit from this, would I be spending, $12,000 a month on social media and posting and doing all this stuff? And when people hear those numbers, I'm like, well, maybe there's going to be a time where you're going to need a personal injury attorney. Right. Right. Or maybe there's just a time where I'm going to get advice from you that's going to help my business grow. Yeah. So it's like, you're getting the benefit of being on the show, getting in front of my guests, and I'm getting the benefit of the relationship. And whether hopefully it does turn into something monetary, and I think that there is always going to be a way to do that.
Yeah, yeah. You just gotta. So if you do it with intention from the beginning, you're more likely to have long-term success in social media because, like you said, it does cost a lot of money. Yeah. We got our clients spend like anywhere from 10 to 30K a month is like what I tell people. Like, if you want to make it in social media, that's why we just made our tagline. We make famous people rich, but we make rich people famous. We can't make poor people famous. Yeah. Because it costs money, man. Yeah. And I'm not paying for it, right?
Yeah, of course.
So most people cannot afford $30,000 a month to properly do their social media. Yeah. And I'm not just talking social media, but that's social media, content creation, press, travel opportunities, paying for collaborations, right? Yeah. If you're not, there's no way to have any splash on social media for under 100 G's a year.
No, it's impossible. I mean, like, I'll just speak from my experience. I'm not doing the influencer stuff. I'm not doing the collaboration stuff. And it costs me $12,000 a month, and that's just for the content creation and the posting and the copywriting, and that's a lot. Yeah. Everything between posting for my law firm and posting for my personals and this. Yeah. So it's like, it makes complete sense because I now would need to add another $15K to do those collabs and to do that stuff, and that would be on the low end of the people that you're dealing with in general. Right. And so I understand the math of it. Of course, not everyone can afford that, but I do love your saying because it's real. It just gets to the point.
It just gets to the point,
we can't make you famous if you don't have money. If you're famous, we can help you make money. And so that's like part of the balance is like understanding how to make money. Luckily for me, I know how to make money. I'm not at that level of money yet, which I'm working up to, but definitely I definitely will be reaching out to you. If you don't get a client from this, I will definitely do some work with you at some point. Because it's just the way your mind sees things, it's super interesting because I think that a lot of people are scared of being polarizing and they're scared of seeing the negative side, but it's not even the negative side. You're looking at it as an opportunity when people are scared because they're so worried about what other people think about them. And that's been something that I've struggled with for years, is so worrying about what other people think about me. But then I started realizing the more I become who I am and the more that I figure out what I want and what my values are, it's just helped me. It's helped my business grow. And just as a person, I feel better overall.
Well, everything you want is on the other side of fear, right? Yeah. So you got to get over the fears. Here's one of the biggest things for me is that just nobody cares, man.
They think they
Nobody cares. Even after they go on the social media and write that thing, they're thinking about 9 other problems they got.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what, like, it's if that could be either. People are like, oh, you're kind of like a nihilist, right? Like, but I'm like, to me, it was like the best day of my life when I figured out no matter what I do, it doesn't really matter. So I might as well just do whatever I want, right? Like, I'm a karmic person, so I'm like, I'm a spiritual being who's like, all right, well, I do want to answer to a higher power. I'm just gonna not gonna be like a total hedonist. But at the end of the day, tell some jokes, like have some fun, like go on stage, like nobody cares, right? Like nobody's gonna remember that much, right? As long as you don't make people feel horrible about themselves on purpose, like target them out individually. But you go out and you say some crazy stuff. As long, and also leave yourself like a little room to like for the hero arc. Don't just go like all in and there's a science to it. All right, there's like a balance to it. But the reality is like anything that you think people care about that much. Nobody's like waking up in the morning like, besides your mom and dad, maybe like opening the phone. Nobody's like, what's Joe doing today? I got to know, like, if you don't post for a couple days, there's going to be somebody else posting that's taking the attention, right?
100%. And I remember a quote that somebody was telling me from one of my mentors. I can't say their name, but long story short, he said that once your reputation is destroyed, you just stop giving a fuck. And then you really start living your life. And I have done some younger things when I was dumb, young and dumb and stuff that's on my record. Let's put it that way. And so once I finally realized, you know what, it's already out there. I've already made mistakes. I've obviously changed since then. But once I got over that, then I stopped caring, and that's when everything in my life started getting better and I started improving. But sometimes it takes going to those dark places to be able to get to that point where you're like, I just don't care anymore. Yeah,
there's a lot of power in not caring. I just really don't care. Listen, I want to be a good person. I care about being a good person. When I say I don't care, I'm not saying I don't care about anything. I'm just saying I don't really care what strangers think of me. And strangers don't care what you think of them. That's why they go on social media and write horrible comments because they don't care, right? And it's just a crazy world, man. So I'm just like, listen, you can either cry about it or you can laugh about it. I just choose to laugh about it, make it fun. I like to, our old saying when I was married to my ex-wife, our rule was we make fun of everything. Everything's a joke. Everything's hilarious. And the other rule we had, because it's hard when you're like married to a comedian, because comedians, you make fun of everything. Our only rule was we can make fun of each other, but it has to actually be funny.
That's a good rule.
You can't just like say something stupid or like degrading, right? But like we can make fun of each other, but it has to actually be funny. And she would say some stuff and I'd be like, was that actually funny? And she'd be like, no, I take it back, But no, it's a crazy world, man. So I think it's important to be fearless if you want to be a creator, right? And so that's
you have to have tough skin because everybody's so judgmental. Not everybody, but many people are very judgmental. And if you don't have a tough skin, you're going to get taken down very easily. And I joke like with a lot of girls that I'm dating, I joke around all the time too because I'm just like, they're like, are you being serious? I'm like, you'd know if I was being serious. Like my life is already the most serious it can be. So I just like to joke about everything. In the meantime, just laugh and be lighthearted. You'll know when I'm being serious.
It's like, don't take life so seriously. None of us get out alive, right?
100%.
So it's crazy. So that's and then I guess so that's the 3 parts of the story or the formula. Follow the money, tell the story, and then amplify the story as big as you can. We were talking about the businesses and how I ran the ad network, and then the business partner I had when I did the new ad network, the mainstream ad network, he actually stole money from like 20 of his friends. Then I sued him, and in the process of suing him, he somehow cut some deal with the Federal Trade Commission, gave him like all this technical information. They were able to put this like civil case against me. They sued like 10 people in the industry. It was, in my opinion, it was a really unfair suit because the way there's this thing called Section 5 of the FTC Act, which basically means they can sue you for anything they want at any time. I think it's totally unconstitutional. I kept saying, where were the victims? Right? Yeah. Like, show me one person who's complaining about these supposed text messages. They couldn't come up with a single text message. So what they do is they sue you under Section 5, and then basically they bully you into a settlement. Yeah. And then when they bully you into the settlement, they put out the press release, oh, we had a big win. Yeah. We're earning our tax dollars here, you know? And I'm like, I should have fought and defended that. But the lawyer, my attorney at the time, he's like, look, it's going to cost you $300,000 a year to fight this. Easily. You're suing for money. All your bank account, your assets are gone from this other lawsuit that you're fighting. And he's like, I can settle this thing for you for $20,000 because they got nothing against you. I'm like, well, yeah, settle it. Yeah. But then I didn't know that I was admitting all this, like, that I wasn't allowed to do affiliate marketing for 10 years. They put all these horrible press releases. Then the former business partner that had stolen all the money from people, took the offensive and wrote all this fake negative news about all the people he stole money from. Jesus. So then you looked bad. Yeah. And so now I'm fighting the government. I'm fighting this guy who stole all my money. I knock up this girl who's just like basically a career scammer. And I'm just like, all right, now what?
You know, when you talk about all this, I comment that I like to make as a lawyer. Yeah. We don't have a justice system. We have a legal system. Correct. So you either have the money to go through the system and win, or you don't get justice. I
have my own saying that I learned.
A messed up way of saying things.
I learned this in the parenting court and the custody stuff. Justice is a luxury that only the rich can afford. Yeah. Actual justice.
I completely agree with you. It's very tough. I have to, a lot of times, have a come to Jesus conversation with my friends. I'm like, you can't afford this lawsuit in the kindest way possible, because what's going to happen is you're pissed off now, then you're going to lose all your money, and you're going to not even be halfway done with the lawsuit, and then you're going to be 100 times more pissed off than you are now. So a lot of people, I tell them, you can take this money, you can take this time and energy, and you can fight this, and it's going to make you stressed out, and then you're going to lose, or you can take all that time and energy and put it towards something positive and move on with your life.
You're a very ethical lawyer for saying that. If I could give anybody a piece of advice of what I would redo in my late 20s, so I was around 28 when I had the baby coming, I had the business partner steal all my money, I had the FTC lawsuit. If I could do it over again, I would just let go and let God. I have a rule now. I don't sue anybody for anything. I don't care what. I just avoid the system at all costs.
Not worth it.
There's like for personal injury, right? There's the system's in place,
but
right?
You see, when it's contingency, it makes sense, right? Because like there's money for me to go after, and we're gonna get you something, and it's no skin off of your back. But the hourly stuff, a lot of the time, like the contentious hourly stuff, which means when you're fighting against somebody else, a lot of times everybody just loses, and the only people that walk away are the winners are the lawyers, and that's why we get a bad rep. But I also understand why we get a bad rep.
Yeah, and they feel so. I realized that most in like civil litigation when I was like suing business partners for supposed stuff. I spent $500,000 to collect 50, basically, and then in the family court, right, in the custody disputes, the lawyers just amplify the animosity, and they dangle your kids in front of you, like, you know, they're like, you have to sell your condo, otherwise you don't love your kid, you know, and like. It's a pretty dark system, and I took on the whole family court system at a pretty high level. I'd like to think that we moved the needle on that for dads. It's such a discriminatory, horrible system. It's
They're very women favored on that one.
Big time women favored, because obviously like legislation was created because women had less rights in the past, but then now the system is like, they realize there's just so much profit in selling children back to their fathers, basically, right? Like 88% of men get put on child support like almost immediately with no care as to like the parenting time. And then men are almost like 100% of the time the ones being incarcerated for child support being in the rears. Women, child support is almost never enforced. So it's a messed up, it's a very gender biased system. But the worst thing is like the way it affects the kids, you know, and
they're the ones that get put through the ringers, and that's
Yep.
what people don't realize.
Yep.
Yeah, they're human beings too.
Yeah, and
They're
so
not
that's
property.
I had to make a really crazy choice to just well, the choice was forced on me. I went from being a multimillionaire, then I had my reputation destroyed, everything. I literally went from having millions in the bank to hundreds of thousands of debt in credit card debt, and all fighting the FTC, fighting my old business partner in court, fighting my son's mom for custody. I was at one time in Chicago, I was in every single court.
Yeah.
Every court. So I was in civil court, I was in family court. I had apartment buildings at the time, and because I had enemies, they were like calling the building inspectors on me.
Yeah.
So I was in building court, and my son's mom got me tied up in this something with like insurance where she made up something, and I was defending myself in criminal court. So I was in every court, and I lost all my money, but I walked away. I remember I went from having $2 million in the bank to $20,000 in my checking account and $250,000 on my Amex that I owed. And I was making the minimum payments, and my minimum payment on American Express was like $38,000. And I was like, I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I can't do it. So I rearranged the debt. That's how I ended up back out here in Orange County. My friend who made it right with me, we had the little falling out of the first business. Then he made it right. And I was like, dude, I'm messed up. He's like, hey, I'm living in Newport Beach. He's like, come crash with me. We'll think of something good. So we came out here, and I had to fix my reputation.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like paying these. I'm thinking of like, I'm falling for all these PR scams. PR companies, traditional PR model, super flawed model. It only works really for like public companies and like athletes and musicians and record labels and stuff like that.
I don't know the difference between traditional PR model and your PR model.
So traditional PR model is basically you pay a retainer, and they don't tell you what you're getting. They just represent you to the media. And they get you like a newspaper clipping in Nebraska. Sometimes they get you a 30 seconds on Fox News, and they're just like, yeah, then your 30 grand is gone.
Yeah.
You know, like how about another 30 grand, right?
Gotcha.
And so our model is more like a combination of partnerships with 500 journalists that we work with, 80 television news outlets. That's why we can make rich people famous, because what we can do is budget and allocate and say, okay, we're going to pay these partnerships that we have. We're going to fund like the journalism, right? Some of it's sponsored content, call it partnership content. So we actually partner with the publications in order to tell that story. And to us, it's just another placement. It's like to place your story in Forbes is just like putting your story on Kendall Jenner's Instagram. It's just a different kind of influencer. Yeah. So we guarantee certain deliverables. And then in that process,
I've been tricked through this process myself. I did some articles on Forbes, and then I had my SEO person look at it, and they're like, this link is actually hurting you.
Right.
It's actually a bad link, and whoever sold you this is a liar and did not get you the proper eyes. But like, I don't know how to verify it. I'm just trusting the company that I worked with.
Exactly. That's where reputation is so important, right?
Yeah,
so like, and you also have to know like what you're going to do with it. So when we get a lot of calls where people are like, we really want to be in Forbes, but we don't have a lot of budget. I'm like, well, then probably Forbes isn't an accurate representation of where your brand is at. But if you do want to be in Forbes, like, look, what do you want to do? I can get you in a cheap Forbes article and like some international franchise. First of all, you know Forbes is owned by the Chinese government now.
I did not know that.
People don't know that, but now you know. You can verify it all. Just Google Chinese Forbes Hong Kong holding company. And all the articles about what Stephen Forbes sold it to this Hong Kong holding company. It's financed by the CCP. And that's why in 2015, when it sold, all of a sudden it went from being a business magazine to writing negative articles about Trump. Why did that happen? So legacy media is really on its way out. That's why podcasts and stuff are so important. But Forbes,
it's the only place that you can get truth.
Well, for now.
Yeah. As much as you can get of it, that's not being censored.
Listen, you can call it truth, but I think there's three sides to every story. So I don't think people are going out there lying on purpose.
Of course.
But it's just too many opinions.
Yeah.
And I can break down this.
You can get their truth.
You can get their truth.
Yeah,
is
I'm
what
not
saying.
saying an all-knowing truth. You can get their truth at least.
And it's you got to use your critical thinking skills, which are very uncommon now. But I'll break down how media fell apart. So we were talking about those 3 broadcast networks, right? Yeah. So you had journalistic integrity. They had like there was a law that said they had to tell the truth. Yeah. Right. That Obama actually got rid of. You don't have he did it to protect journalists. You don't have. There's no law in place anymore that says journalists have to tell the truth. That was around 2008, I believe.
I'm gonna look that up. I'm just interested in it.
Yeah, I find out the name of the law. I should know it.
Look it up, Zev. Yeah. And see, he can look up stuff for us, but we
Google
can continue
the law
that
Obama got rid of that used to make the press have to tell the truth, right? Okay. So then that happened, but in the same process, so you go from the 3 television outlets and the handful of like newspapers and magazines people get their news from. Cable news comes out. Cable news now, instead of having the news at 6 a.m. and 9 p.m., cable news, now you have news 24 hours a day. So how do they fill that time? Because it's the same amount of news. Yeah. What they start doing is opinion news. So now people's opinions on the news becomes the news. Yeah. And that's where you get the cable. And then that's the same thing with internet. Then the internet, social media comes out. We need news every second, every way. And everybody's got an opinion on it. And now we are so lost in opinions, nobody really knows what the news is anymore, what the truth is. So there's no news. It's just opinions.
I completely agree with you. It's something that I stress about with my dad and my mom. I don't tend to watch the news as much as I'm not going to say I should. Yeah. I've learned that for me, if it's something that directly affects me, I will definitely get involved and I will respond to it appropriately. Yeah. But if it's not something that's directly affecting me, I tend not to watch the news or listen to it because it's just a bunch of people's opinions. Yep. And it's not actual facts. And it's a lot of it fear mongering. They're trying to trigger you. And so my dad and mom are always stressed out. Yeah. I'm like, it's because you have CNN on or you have ABC literally just running in the background all day. I'm like, you need to delete these television like stations. So like, I mean, for me, I just honestly have like the Netflix and like the stuff. I try not to watch the news at all. It comes on when I turn on the TV and I immediately change it because I know it's a bunch of rubbish a lot of the time. Yeah,
there's actually something called FUD that they're paid to promote. It's FUD stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Yeah. And
that's what gets the clicks.
It gets the clicks. I call it fear porn as well. People love like to be scared in their house, right? Like, oh God, I'll tell you a hilarious story about my friend in Newport Beach here. He watched so much Fox News, and radicals are on both sides, right? I tend to, people think I'm conservative, but I live in Hollywood. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm just kind of like logical, right? Like this, I like that one Supreme Court justice who's like, I don't know what pornography is. I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. Yeah. That's kind of how I am. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to explain that, but I'll tell you how I think about it when you present it to me in that moment, right?
It depends on what's going on at that second. It's like I can be conservative. I can also be a liberal. I can also be a Democrat. It's just like it calls for whatever my values and what I believe in is at that moment. And the fact that we have a 2-party system to me is just insanity when we're supposed to live in the freest country in the world. I mean, like for myself, I'm going to probably be voting for RFK like in the future. RFK, but I mean, everybody's got their opinions, right? But it's like, it'd be nice to see a change.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about RFK, I love RFK. We've done events with him, and I really love his message. But I would just, I'm just a Trump guy. Just not because I love Trump, but just because, you know, you just gotta, you know, you can vote for your conscience or whatever. But I just like Trump. That's it. I think Trump. I think he's as flawed as he is, working around his campaign and stuff. The guy just gets that America does not to. He's just really holding the line on globalism consuming America. That's it.
And what do you mean by that?
So basically where the current like socialist Democrat administration is they want 3 like major, basically 2 major world powers are going to be China and US, and they want everybody to be equally poor. It's like this weird kind of like mock communism, right? Where it's like, if they can get everybody, that's where this like gender crap comes from, right? They're like, if all men and women are gray mush with nothing that identifies them and everybody has the same access to the same things, then we can hoard all the resources and be super rich. America, as this like capitalistic experiment, it's flawed just like the legal system, right? But it's still the best system. Yeah. Like, even if you want to talk about the legal system in America being, you know, we're talking about like justice is only something that the rich can afford. at least there's a system for the rich to afford it, right? You can appeal. There's like checks and balances. Like you're not going to get that in Venezuela, right? No. So I do think America has the best systems in place. Even our political system, right? Like the way the Supreme Court can kind of offset like the checks and balances. Like I think that's the only reason we haven't gone into like a full anarchy mode is because of these checks and balances. But I do think that there is major financial players at bay that, you know, they're financing this Ukraine thing just so they can basically steal land that they're it's everything. You got to follow the money on all this stuff, right? And it's resources. RFK talks about it a lot. RFK's got a great message on it. He breaks down how BlackRock and Vanguard essentially financing all these wars so they can take land, so they can take resources. And that's where these FUD articles, these FUD news comes into play because whenever BlackRock wants to buy the houses, they put out articles saying why home ownership is the worst idea for millennials. Yeah. Why renters are so much happier, you know, because it's just amplifying the people owning the news stations and paying for it. So you got to follow the money and see through it. I don't know what the solution is. I'm not, you know, I'm not a biologist. What did that lady say that one time? She's like, what's a woman? I'm not a biologist. I don't know. You know, it's like, but, you know, it's just, I just do my best to like, you know, not care. And because, and that's most of America is you meet people anywhere around the world. What they care about is their home, their kids, their immediate financial ability to provide for themselves. So anyways, I'm going to tell you this funny FUD story about my friend who watched too much Fox News. So he watches so much Tucker Carlson. And I love Tucker and I've worked with Tucker. He's awesome. But my friend watches so much Tucker Carlson, living in Newport Beach in a gated community. He's like, Vito, the trannies are coming, man. The trannies are coming. They're coming to the schools. I'm like, wow, that would really concern me if I'm like, do you have any kids? No, but they're coming to the schools, man. That's not right. I'm moving to Florida. I'm like, have you been to South Beach, buddy? Like, so, you know, people get on their head that like, oh, he's like, no, I got to go to Florida. I got to own a gun there. I'm like, what are you going to do with a gun? You're going to start shooting trannies? Yeah. You know, because they're jumping the fences over here. Yeah. I'm like, so he's like, no, I got to get to Florida, man. So he gives up his amazing, beautiful 5-bedroom house in Newport Beach in a gated community. He moves to Miami. He did this. Spends like $100,000 moving.
Just based off of him watching Tucker Carlson.
He just got washed, man.
Yeah.
And so he's living in this 2-bedroom condo because prices in Miami got insane, right? Insane. So he's spending like $12,000 a month on a condo, raining every day because it rains over there, right? The weather that's like rains out like every other day out there. And he's like, man, all they have on Uber Eats is rice and beans. Everything comes with rice and beans. And he's like on Hinge, and he's like, man, these girls, they all only speak Spanish, man. What's going on with this? And I'm like, and so he's 2 months in over there, and he's like, you wouldn't believe it. My car got broken into out here. I'm like, yes, man. Like, everywhere has problems. Yeah. But like, worry about your immediate surroundings. So he ends up spending 2 months later, he ends up bringing his lease. So they're spending another $100,000 moving back to OC. And I told him, man, just stop watching the news. Trannies aren't coming. And even if they are, I don't like, what are you like going to get hit in the head with a dildo? Like we're going to win the war if they're actually, so wars now are fought in a totally different capacity. We're in the Third World War right now. It's information warfare. It's financial, economic warfare. Yeah. It's like the Chinese are paying for this gender ideology stuff to get infiltrated into the U.S. to weaken men. It's a Marxist agenda to finance these family courts to eliminate the father from the nuclear family. These aren't even conspiracies anymore, right? And so enemies of America are financing our media. And the way the war is fought, it used to be like we send 1,000 soldiers there. We shoot each other. They send us 1,000 soldiers here. We shoot each other, and they're like, we kill 500 of your guys, and you kill 500 of our guys, and now we're like, you know, we're going to make a peace deal. Now China's like, we made your boys gay. We win, you know? And it's just it's a different way of fighting wars, right? So
Yeah, but I don't think that you're trying to say there's anything wrong with being gay. It's more just like the way that they're attacking people's mindsets, and they're trying to crush them as individuals and trying to reprogram them. And I do 100% agree with the whole demasculinization of men in our society. And you're right. And I remember hearing too, like in China and in different countries, they actually, like on social medias, they promote people doing good things.
Totally different TikTok content.
Yeah, it's like a girl dancing. No offense, Courtney. A girl dancing in front of a screen is not going to get as much as like somebody who got like, created a math problem where they did something like that. And so it comes down to like the values that are being promoted and pushed. And so it is. I've never heard somebody explain it this way, but you're right. It is a warfare, and they are winning. And
well, TikTok's owned by the CCP as well. Yeah. So they're or at least funded by them. And so why does U.S. TikTok content amplify girls getting top surgery to change their gender? That's trending and viral constantly. Why is it constantly promoting that how glorified stripping is, only like how empowering OnlyFans and creation is? Why all men are misogynists, all men are whatever. And then you go to China and you see their TikTok content, and it's how to do engineering, right? So it is information warfare. I'm not, and again, to go back on that, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being gay. I'm just also saying that 15% of our population is not gay, all right? And it's, if you look at the stats of how the social media indoctrination has affected young people, and the rise in people identifying as these different gender ideologies, sexual preferences, they're completely one for one. The more they push it on social media, the more people say that it's their thing. It's that is how. I mean, there's a lot of people that benefit from that. Like even our own government, we have like there's a lot of talk about overpopulation problems and stuff, and they don't want people having kids. Having a family makes people less reliant on the government. That's a huge thing. And that just goes back to my whole thing of like the big gray mush. They want everybody to be the same so they can be easier to control. Yeah. And that's the thing. I don't
disagree with you on that.
This message isn't making me any money. So let's go back to talking about the message of how we can be rich and famous on social media. Did you find the law? Or are you having a hard time?
Yeah,
okay.
Let's see. The hard time was just like every other issue.
Yeah.
Like trying to find something that's balanced.
Okay.
Right? I wasn't trying to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
There's a lot of discourse and disagreement.
Okay.
This is the most balanced thing you can find.
Pew Research.
I don't know if you want to read it. I could also
summarize
what I found. Up to you guys.
However, whatever you guys think. It's I just what's the name of the law? That's what I want.
So it's the SMITH-MUNDT Act.
Yep.
Okay.
And it was a part of this larger thing.
Yep.
And essentially, it's just a debate like anyone else.
Sure.
It's a debate on what the original act was, and there's a debate on what actually was the byproduct of it. This article here gives a lot of context to both sides and what the disagreement is.
Okay.
But yeah, there's not necessarily.
My guess, just based off of my legal understanding, is that probably what the reason he was doing it is because he was sick of defamation lawsuits. So he was giving the reporters an opportunity for them to basically say whatever they want. So they weren't open to the liability of basically saying stuff that's untrue. It's the same thing that they basically did for the vaccination companies. They allowed them to not be sued so that they could just put out these vaccines.
Right.
So it's the way that our country is run based off of a capitalistic mindset is how can we make the most money without posing the risk to the individuals that might be lying or making stuff up for the hope that they're doing good, but a lot of times they end up causing more harm than they're not.
And here's the thing. I wasn't like blaming Obama for it. I was just saying tracking.
I wasn't saying that you were either. I understand the economics of it. So I get that.
All I was saying is tracking how journalism got diluted.
Yeah.
This was one of the factors that did take away from quote unquote like journalistic integrity. Obviously, you remove oversight, you deregulate anything, there's going to be abuse, right? And that's when they deregulated utilities, they deregulated anything. So this essentially was deregulation of the media, right? Is that a fair way to kind of explain it? So how you feel about deregulation, you can do your own research, but I wanted to tag the name because it is a very interesting, I see the words propaganda used a lot. So that's one of the key terms that was kind of thrown around in this thing a lot. Originally, it was kind of meant to like regulate propaganda.
Yeah, it's being used as a political tool.
And now, are you going to tell me that the news is not propaganda?
It's depending on what station you watch. And it's just and I don't mean that it's not propaganda. It's just propaganda for one side or the other.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's all it is.
It's all it is.
The only really fair news that I read right now is Epoch Times. You ever read them?
I don't know them.
They're started by a group of people from that left communist China, and they have like people from Venezuela, all these people that escaped communism, and they do a pretty good job of reporting. They are accused of leaning right, but for the most part, they source and back up their arguments pretty well, and they really do a good job of keeping the kind of like exaggeration out of the headlines.
Got it.
So the headlines are pretty direct. They're the ones that helped. They were involved with Elon Musk with the Twitter files. They published like a really cool infographic that really tied together, all the kind of stuff going on with Twitter and stuff. And listen, if Elon Musk had not bought Twitter, it would be a completely different America today.
100%.
Yeah.
Thank God he did it.
Yeah.
And, when you're talking about it, I only know the Los Angeles Tribune is anybody that I could comment about because I know them personally.
Yeah. You know Mo?
Yeah, I know Mo.
Yeah.
So
I work with them a lot.
Yeah, so Mo is great because they talk about the impact they're trying to have. And also a lot of the conversations they're having are not even about news stories. They're talking about how to be an effective leader. How can you influence your community? How can you do the right thing? And so in regards to that stuff, I know it's 100% true because I know multiple of the big guests that are on there and we have conversations about this stuff. But as for the other like news stuff, I don't know if it's just like everybody's getting their sources from the same messed up places, right? Or is it just actually the story that's being told?
Well, I will say that legacy media does, a lot of it comes from two big companies, Edelman and Rubenstein PR, that are the two biggest PR companies. Edelman is credited with literally developing the branding for the Black Lives Matter movement. And BLM is actually a gigantic fundraising mechanism for the DNC.
Okay.
And they just basically were like, nobody's going to give Joe Biden money. He's not engaging. So we have to create these engaging situations and what I would call media activations, right? We have to create these situations that are going to get people pumped up and so mad they get their wallets out. And BLM, literally, there's a great meme, shows the wheelbarrows of money coming into BLM and the wheelbarrows of money coming out the back door into the DNC. That's how Biden's hitting these fundraising numbers.
DNC stands for Democratic
Democratic National Convention, I think.
Got it.
Right?
Okay,
DNC and the RNC, that's like the two parties.
Yeah.
But so the BLM was a construct of a PR company that is deeply entrenched in legacy media that created this fundraiser and social media phenomenon, gets people donating money, and they don't know that that money is going then to basically fund liberal judges, local elections, presidential candidates, and stuff like that.
Oh, interesting.
It's like people don't even think about it. They're like, oh, that was because George Floyd had an injustice done to him or whatever.
So you said it's Edelman and what's the other one?
Rubenstein PR.
Rubenstein, and so like who owns these? Obviously, these individuals, or is it like BlackRock and other companies? That
I
own
would
these?
say at this point they're probably all integrated. Yeah. But I know Edelman does like billions of dollars a year in PR retainers.
Yeah, you mean like integrated in the sense that these huge funds are like buying percentages of them, or what does that mean?
I would say that I think they are publicly traded. I don't know too much about them actually, but I've talked to both, and actually both of them also use my company because they're kind of like also being left out, right? Like they're not able to like adapt to the internet. So we have done fulfillment for them, but Richard Edelman, I think. Yeah. Anyways, they're so big that there's no way that these guys aren't like at these like world leader forums. I mean, they're the PR company for like presidential candidates and
Got
stuff.
it.
You know?
Yeah, so, I was going to ask you. You don't have to drop any names. My question is: has anybody ever come to you and been like, "Hey, we want to influence the minds of people for the purposes of propaganda or politics"?
Absolutely.
Okay, and so when that conversation happens, like, what is your strategy with that?
So that's actually I came up with a term for it called taking the China bag in Hollywood. Because there was a time in Hollywood, it was kind of part of the reason I had to go the independent creator route, because I basically got like booted out for calling it out. in when I was doing reality TV and stuff in 2014, 2015. And I started getting more into scripted film, and my career was kind of popping.
Yeah.
I started seeing that China was coming in and buying all the movie studios.
Okay.
Because they wanted to control the narrative in the U.S. Why do you think Bad Baby 1 is a straight baby, Bad Baby 2 is a straight baby, Bad Baby 3 is a tranny baby? All right, this is like information warfare, right? Same thing with the Transformers movies, right? Like they don't. This is where like the communism, how they fight. Like they're not like the conservatives. The conservatives are just too boring, right? Like they don't know how to play the content game. And I've talked to like Charlie Kirk from Turning Point USA and stuff about this, and been like, dude, we got to just come out with like cool content and then plug our message into it. Otherwise, we're just creating like endless echo chamber content, right?
Yeah.
Then we're only winning over people that already believe in what we believe in.
Yeah.
But then you have the other side where they buy these like American institutions, and then they slowly turn them into propaganda machines.
Okay.
And so I noticed that happening 10 years ago in Hollywood, and China owns a lot.
Yeah.
China owns all the Hollywood studios. China owns all the legacy media companies in some capacity, including Forbes. You can Google that one too. That one's easy to find. And China owns a huge amount. Now they even own like Disney, NBA, right? And like all this stuff. And they own all the social media influencers that they want. They got
Since
TikTok.
when does China own Disney?
China is really deeply entrenched in Disney.
Okay.
The Star Wars movies is a big, there's a big controversy because in China, they won't allow like a black person to be a main character on a poster. So like in Star Wars movies, you know, like you'll have a white guy, a black guy, right? In China, they make the black guy really small.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is so interesting. I guess like because you obviously seem to have a lot of information and knowledge about this. This is you just seeking your own information and informing yourself, or is this just because of the relationships that you have that you've been informed about this stuff and now you're knowledgeable about it?
Well, I have personal relationships with over 500 journalists, like I said, and I work with a lot of media producers and stuff, and a lot of them aren't political, but they're just like, hey, this isn't cool. This isn't right. So I get a lot of like, hey, look at what they did to the Disney poster. You know, like I have friends who work in Hollywood, and they're like, isn't this crazy?
Yeah.
You know, and then we send it out, but like legacy media is not going to amplify it. Okay, there you go.
It's the first line of Wikipedia.
Yep. There you go. See?
It's a Hong base. So it says an American business magazine founded by BC Forbes in 1917 and now owned by Hong Kong-based investment group Integrated Whale Media Investments.
Yeah, since 2014.
Yeah, since 2014. Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's not, they don't even hide it anymore.
No, they don't hide it anymore. I mean, there's no point. China at some point is going to own most of everything.
Yep. So
yeah,
that's the war. It's and they want to make America.
But like I guess my question is, from what you know about that, is the CCP own it, or is that just a subsidiary of it, or is that a company in China that's just run, like owned and ran by the CCP, or is this like an individual that owns this company in China?
Well, if you know how the CCP works, there is no individual.
Yeah, I guess I don't know much about it.
Okay, so the CCP, there's nothing. Like the CCP runs everything in China.
Okay.
So you can pretend you own your business, but at a certain point, the CCP, it belongs to the CCP.
Got it.
So there's no entrepreneurship in China, right? Like they allow you to kind of do little things, but as soon as you have any success, CCP owns it.
Yeah, whatever happened to that Alibaba guy? I feel like I never heard from him again. He's just gone.
He's just CCP.
Yeah, CCP.
Yep.
How interesting.
Yep.
I mean, it's obviously...
It's terrifying,
yeah,
actually.
It's terrifying and horrific.
And that's the same things that they're doing for the CCP is what they're trying to integrate here.
Yeah.
And it's just control, man. It's just control. They want to steal resources. They want to steal assets. How do you stand up to it? I don't know. Again, I don't have the answers. I'm just making conversation.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? And somehow I always try to like sell the influencer stuff, and I always end up down the conspiracy anti-CCP rabbit hole.
Part of it is like awareness, right? It's like you just having a conversation about this brings it awareness to individuals.
Yeah.
Awareness is the first step in becoming unconscious, right? Or becoming conscious, not unconscious. You're trying to wake up from the reality that everything is, you know, the way that it is, and realizing that there are a lot of people pulling the strings and trying to influence everything you're doing. And so once you then have awareness, you can then start making changes. And whether that's on a personal level, or you're somebody that feels motivated to maybe go into politics and make a bigger change. So just having these conversations, and also having the bravery of having these conversations. Because, you know, I'm over here on the other side too. Like, I'm a lawyer, right? I'm worried, is somebody going to listen to this and be offended by it? But at the same time, we're not saying anything that's crazy or far-fetched. We're just trying to talk about facts which are out there. And if somebody also does have an opinion and they find something that we discuss that is not a fact, let us know. We would love to be clarified, and we would love to have that conversation.
I welcome all opinions. Like Ben Franklin says, I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying, but I'll fight to the death your right to say it. I don't know if that was actually Ben Franklin.
This is a company, they own Legendary Entertainment and AMC.
Yeah, they control all the movies. I guarantee you there will never be a movie about Tom Cruise taking on the CCP.
That's fair.
All right. So, the history is written by the winners. Right. So, and I don't think that was Ben Franklin who said that, but so that's why you have to take all information you read on the internet with a grain of salt. I seen a Abe Lincoln meme. It was Abe Lincoln.
But
and
that's also one of those quotes that doesn't matter where it's from. It's the truth.
It's
you
a good
just
one.
feel it in your bones.
Yes.
Yeah, because the history is written by the winners.
Kind of like this Abe Lincoln quote I seen. It said, "Anything's a dildo if you're brave enough." And it had Abe Lincoln. So I don't think he said that, but you never know. I wasn't there. You know, you gotta like use your critical thinking skills.
No, for sure. I mean, like, I was just thinking about something simple the other day. You know, we have like the Axis versus the Allies in World War II. I wonder if on the Axis side they were called the Allies and we were called the Axis.
Absolutely.
Right?
Everybody thinks they're the good guy.
And that's what I'm saying. We all like it's all about the narrative that you write at the end of the day. And if you're the winner, and guess what? If you're the winner, you get to write the story. Yeah, I was also like having like almost like a dark thought too. I was like thinking of like interesting people based on this book that I was reading recently, and it was talking about like when Albert Einstein won Times Person of the Year, and somebody in my firm, we do book club together, made a comment where they were talking about Hitler was nominated for that, and I'm like, why wouldn't he be nominated? He, you know, obviously Einstein had a lot of impact, but you could argue that Hitler had way more impact than Einstein ever did, and yes, it was a negative impact, but there's, I think, things to be seen from individuals who had that kind of power and were able to influence so many people. Talk about an influencer, right? And so even though we see that it's evil and everything that he did, but he probably spoke to people's hearts and he said some good things, and obviously he did horrific things. And I'm not trying to support Hitler, but what I'm saying is there's going to be some nuggets of knowledge based on the fact of what he was able to accomplish.
Yeah, I study a lot about how people rise to power. That's one of my really interesting things. And it's almost always the same formula. It's what I'm talking about, how we make rich people famous. It's you find that targeted audience, you find the pain point, you create an offer, right? The offer could be like, hey, I'll change your country, you know? Well, we find the offer, and then you tie your story into that offer, and then you tell that story as many places as you can, and you build your tribe. And it's through radicalization, through division. And right, that's how these people always rise to power. Nobody rose to power playing the middle.
No.
You know? Let's get crazy. Israel-Palestine. So we're talking about like these bad people have impact, right? And like the winner writes the history. So I always think it's hilarious that like liberal women are always kind of like always like supporting things that are like supporting their own destruction, right? So I never thought I would see the day when everybody in America didn't support Israel, right? Israel to me is like a beacon of democracy in the Middle East. But I got this girl who is an adult film actress. Okay, she is obsessed with the fact that she says Israel is committing genocide against Palestinians, and I think they're both equally guilty. There's a great meme that I get all my news from memes, actually. So there's a great meme where it shows the bombs shooting from Israel to Palestine, and it says, "My tax dollars at work." And then it shows bombs shooting from Palestine to Israel, and it says, "Somehow also my tax dollars at work." Right? So like it's all bad. But I jammed her up in her cognitive dissonance because that's what people who can't accept new ideas have, right? It's cognitive dissonance. So I was like, okay, like I get it. Yeah, those news articles said that Israelis killed a lot of people. These news articles said Palestinians killed a lot of people. Let me just ask you this. I said, you're blue-haired. You walk down the street in a string bikini. You go to Israel, and you got your blue hair and your boobs out. You can walk down the street. You probably have a pretty decent chance at seeing tomorrow. You go to Palestine, you got your blue hair and your boobs out. I guarantee you're not going to make it to the end of the block. So which side do you actually think is the side that is in line with your Western values?
So look, I'm not going to get too political on this because I'm Palestinian.
Yeah.
But what I will say about this war is
Yep.
I hear what you're saying and
Yep.
I understand world politics.
Yep.
There's always going to be two sides of a
Three sides.
conversation. Three sides,
Yep.
yeah. But when it comes to this stuff, it's tough because there's probably no situation where Palestine's going to come out of this okay,
Yep.
because of the fact that this is simple. The more powerful country is going to dominate when they want something. They're going to dominate the smaller countries. This is just simple history that's occurred over and over and over again. And there's obviously been atrocities on both sides because that happens in war. And, you know, getting into the weeds of the little details of what have happened to this point now, it's very difficult, especially when you're on the losing side and when you don't see that there's any hope for the losing side. And it's basically from an understanding that I don't think there's going to be anybody that's going to come in and try to save them, because then you're going to have to stand up to the top world powers, and that will lead to actual war, which a lot of people cannot win against America and against Israel. So, you know, it's not to like go back and forth about what you're saying. It's just, it's a very distraught situation because there's hurt people on both sides. And it's something that I've not commented about yet on my podcast or anywhere, because it's a hard conversation to have, because I have cousins that are getting killed. I have family that can't leave their home because there's people going around trying to kill Palestinians, even in the city of Jerusalem. And I understand it because it's scary, and this is sometimes how the world is. But I also understand the plea of the Israelis, because I have a lot of Israeli friends, and they want their families back. They want this to end. And we have players like Netanyahu and individuals that want money, they want power, and they don't even care about the people.
Never.
It's all about the resources, and it's all about what we've been talking about this whole thing, which is follow the money. Follow the money. You'll understand why it's happening and how it's happening. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's a very sad situation. Sorry, this is just like a hard
I'm sorry to bring it up and bum you out.
it's
Let me
okay.
ask you, as a
You're not bumming me
Palestinian,
out,
what would your logic path be to ending the conflict there? Because it was maintaining itself for a while.
I think that this might be getting too much into the weeds of it all, but like, I felt that the Palestinians were getting a bit organized, and if you trace the money back, going back to it, Netanyahu and the Israeli party actually funded Hamas.
Okay.
Millions and millions of dollars, and I understand why they did it. Because they wanted to create dissent.
Right.
And so it makes complete sense, because once again, I understand political parties and going back to that. I would say that to the Palestinian people, you are not going to win this war. You need to get Hamas to surrender, and you need to salvage the situation and look to get help from, like, in the most messed up way, the people that are literally destroying you, because I don't see a way that they're going to be able to win in any way, shape, or form. I think it's at this point trying to do collateral damage, which is just understanding that you can't win this war. You don't have the resources, you don't have the backing, so how can you collaborate to end this before they end all of you?
Now, what do you think about the role of Islam in amplifying the war, or just in the war at all?
So I think that it is wrong to correlate a religion to any culture. I think that the Israelis have tried to make it that all Jewish people are Israeli, and they've tried to make it seem that all Palestinians are Islam. I actually was raised Catholic, Greek Orthodox.
Right. There's a big percentage of that.
There's a big percentage of that. I think trying to say that a religion is a culture is improper, in my opinion. I think there's Israeli individuals, there's Palestinian individuals, and bringing religion into it is not what religion is about in any way, shape, or form. So I think that should be kept separate. But I think that it's part of the propaganda is you are Islam, you believe this way. You are Jewish, you believe this way. And then you don't allow people in or out. It's the same problem with having a two-party system. You're not giving people options. Not everyone is the same. Not everyone's going to believe the same. So I think bringing religion into it is not proper. And you should just, you know, your decisions are your decisions, but it's not based off the religion that you hold.
But what about like in Iran? Like, you know, they have these, I don't even consider it a religion. They just like.
There's extremists always. That's
Always,
the best
right.
thing I can tell you.
Yeah.
There's going to be Israelis that think that this war is wrong. There's going to be Palestinians that think this war is wrong. Then you're going to be Israelis that think this war is perfect.
Yeah.
And there's going to be Palestinians that think this war is perfect.
Yeah.
There's always going to be extremists on every side. And it's like, you know, I think that the only side that people should be on is the side of humanity.
Absolutely.
But the problem is that there's always going to be greed.
Yep.
And when that greed is the motivating factor and the greed is the 1% that run everything, it's you got to follow the money. And if you follow the money, you'll understand what's really going on.
Where would I go from here with this? So yeah, it's a really tough situation. Yeah. And I'm sorry you got family out there. It's, you know,
a lot of people have family out there, and it's like, it's tough because, yeah, man, this is a very triggering conversation for a lot of people. And I hope that, you know, if you're listening to this, I'm not saying just because I'm Palestinian that I'm choosing one side or the other. I think that both sides, it's horrific for everyone. My only side that I'm choosing is a human side. So this just needs to end.
Absolutely.
And whatever that looks like is the proper move. But what's happening is we're definitely losing hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, and not to discredit any Israeli life, but the Palestinians are going to get destroyed here.
I don't know that much about the numbers.
Yeah.
I just know the war is going. I saw the same thing with Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah.
That they are just killing people for profit.
Yeah.
And you know, BlackRock has already secured the contracts to rebuild Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean,
is that crazy?
My dad's pretty like in like the political realm.
Yeah.
We've had lots of conversations about Ukraine and Russia. It makes sense. It's all for the resources.
Yep.
And this is a systematic thing that the U.S. does a lot of time. They go in, they destroy a country because then it's really easy to take over when a country's in shambles and ruins. And they use a justification, and typically their justification is, you know, there's somebody doing something really messed up. We need to go in and do it. And I don't disagree with that. But to destroy an entire country to do it is really aggressive and extreme. And it really makes it easy for them to come in then and just take over the resources and then control the country. And so it's been something that they've done systematically in the Middle East for decades. And it's, once again, I understand it. This is the more powerful country taking over the weaker countries. And so it's just trying to understand how the political systems work and how the world works. And if you do, it softens the blow to you, but it does not soften the blow to the people that are getting destroyed.
Of course, yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation in itself. But it's a struggle too, because, you know, I'm Palestinian, I'm Jordanian, I'm Armenian. So, like, you know, the U.S. supports a lot of times.
You got like 2 out of 3 wars going against you right now,
That's
pal.
what I'm saying. Like, it's tough because I also am American.
Yeah.
I was born here. I was raised here. I did not live in the Middle East at any point. So it's like, you know, sometimes it's like I know that we're funding, you know, basically the destruction of my heritage. And it's, luckily I understand it. You know, I don't necessarily condone it, but also understanding what is the power that I actually have. And a lot of times just having a conversation, bringing awareness. And I think that at one point, one day, I do want to run for politics.
Yeah.
And then I will be actually trying to make a direct change.
Yeah.
And that's like the thing is, like, if you believe in something or you want to make a change, you know, the news is great and it can affect you, but if you can't make a change, it almost will cripple you because you're not actually making a difference. If you want to make a difference, find a way to do it and go do it.
I made the mistake when I took on the whole like family court structure.
Yeah.
I've realized now, like, not every fight is my fight.
Yeah.
Right. And so sometimes all I can do is talk about it and try to get people amped up. And maybe like somebody with more resources or more money or something will like see the information we're talking about or the perspective and be like, okay, maybe this is something I can fund. And that's kind of how I got involved with Turning Point USA. Was I was just talking about the things, and then people were like, well, what do we do about it? Right. Yeah. We're not moving to Florida, but not all of us are moving to Florida. Right.
Yeah.
And I just said, okay, who's the organization that's got the most money, the most impact, the most access to young people, and maybe isn't perfect, but checks the most boxes, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, then we can get you in it. We can start getting people integrated into Turning Point. They've got kind of the distribution, and then you find the biggest thing and you kind of like pump it out through that.
Yeah.
So,
but that's very wise, the approaches that you take. I really have a lot of respect for your methodology. I think a lot of people, especially in the marketing world, they say they're going to do a lot of things. They put a lot of hullabaloo out there, but not a lot of people are actually doing it. And I've talked to a lot of marketing experts, just being in my field, experts, quote unquote, and I've been disappointed a lot of times. But you have a specific methodology and process that you are able to implement and redo over and over again through proven successes. You know, you don't just get to meet the people that you meet and have the relationships that you do unless you have the reputation and you're actually doing a good job. So I commend you, and good job doing a good job and also figuring out a process, because one thing I've learned from me is I didn't start making a lot of money until I put a process down. And once I started creating that process and we started repeating that process, and we do that now over and over again, that's now how we're able to amplify and scale. And so you learned this at the age of like 25 years old.
Not by genius, by luck.
But sometimes that's the way the universe works. And I think that luck is just a combination of your intention. It's like understanding that you're going to get what you're putting out into the world. And so you just were calling it in, and you were looking for the solution, and you worked hard and you got it early on. A lot of people, they don't figure it out till later. And I think it's because part of your story too is you fail quickly and you recover from it quickly. It just, some failures are more painful than others.
So let's lighten up the mood a little bit. I got a good colonialism joke. colonizing joke. So
I think it's appropriate for what conversation we had, or inappropriate depending on the result.
I got a good colonizing joke. So I was doing this Turning Point event, and this girl came up and yelled at me, and she was like, "You're a colonizer." And I thought about it. She said it in like a negative way, but I was like, is that really such a bad thing? You know, like, like, what did you guys do? Right? What were you guys doing before? Like, you know, we brought civilization there. So it's kind of a controversial joke, but it's, I think that
I understand the concept. Everybody was a colonizer at some point.
It's like, look, we're either going to be,
not everybody, but a lot of civilizations.
You know, Elon Musk made this really interesting comment on Don Lemon's podcast the other day, that almost every civilization has either been an enslaver or a slave throughout humanity. Right. And, but again, what is the amplification that's being put out right now? So it's a crazy time in media, man. I didn't mean to get emotional, and but I think it's important to make those polarizing points, but also not be rigid in the expectation of the outcome.
You know what, man, though? I was thinking about it the whole time I was about to respond, because I knew it was about to go there for a second. And this is part of just like also just having an opinion and knowing what I believe in and knowing what my thoughts are. And, you know, I'm actually kind of proud of myself for the way that I eloquently said the things that I did. But because I was really worried about eventually having this conversation and feeling like I would sound like an idiot or not knowing what I was going to say. So I'm glad that you pushed me to have this conversation, because it's something I was terrified of for a while. And it's just like, once again, like I feel better about myself knowing where I stand and what I believe in, when I was so scared of it for so long. Because like, you know, I definitely have some friends that have very polarizing opinions about things, and I understand it. But just understanding where I stand is really powerful for myself. So I appreciate you having this conversation.
I'm grateful to have it. And just so you know, I don't have a side in the war. I'm on the same side as you with all wars. I'm always like, war is only good for the people making money for it. And it's bad for everybody else, and nobody deserves it. And it totally sucks. And I wish we could eliminate all of it. And regardless of my cultural comments here or there, I like to joke about stereotypes because I think they're hilarious.
I think they're hilarious, and most of them are true.
And I also don't think that
say that with a comical sense.
Well,
like they became a stereotype for a reason. It's like the same thing with cliches. It's like they didn't just come out of nowhere.
All jokes are 51% true, or they're not funny. If I'm like, hey, the sky's green, you're like, okay, it doesn't make any sense, right? But
that's a good statistic. I like that.
That's what I said. It has to be more true than not true in order for it to be funny. Or at least perceived as true. Maybe that's the problem with stereotypes, is that because they're perceived as true, it gives that element of truth that makes it comedic. But here's the other thing. When it comes to comedy, I also feel that we should be allowed to make fun of everything. I feel like comedy is the great equalizer. That's why I started doing stand-up, because I was like, okay, I'm 38 years old. Being an entrepreneur gives you some impact and access, but I really want to be like able to influence and impact people. So through that, I'm thinking like, okay, well, I'm too old to join a band. I'm too old to become a professional athlete. My comments on Below Deck got me blacklisted from politics. I don't want to ever have those videos hung over my head. And Lastly, I'm like, okay, well, I can do stand up as a cynical 38-year-old man. I have a chance here to kind of fight for some free speech.
Yeah.
And comedy's actually there is, regardless of what people say, there is a war on comedy and free speech, and
Yeah,
people
I
are
was
scared.
literally going to bring it up to you. You're doing the Red Pill comedy tour is what you're saying.
Yep.
And I just like remembered listening to Joe Rogan and Dave Chappelle when they did their thing, and they made people put their phones away because of this whole cancel culture thing. It's like every single word that you're going to say, you have to worry about it. Like everyone at some point, people are going to be terrified to say anything because everyone just immediately tries to cancel them. I remember an example of like Robert Edward Grant. I don't know if you know who he is.
Name sounds familiar.
Robert Edward Grant, he did this experiment. He's a very big follower. He's one of the most intelligent people on the planet. Stanford like tried to post this thing saying that they were going to eliminate the use of like some passionate word, which was a good word. And he literally, and they were like about to get it passed and they were going to pass it by a lot. He posted on his thing because he has more of an influence. He said, who here believes that Stanford should be defunded for doing this?
Yeah.
And then literally millions of people responded and they immediately retracted like, we're not going to be doing this.
Yeah.
And it's like, so cancel culture is great for you until someone tries to cancel you.
Exactly.
And so it's just like, it's crazy. Like everyone's trying to cancel everyone. Like we live in a country that was based on the fact that we could have an opinion. We can talk about things. We don't have to fall in line. And now if you don't fall in line, everybody wants to cancel you.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's what I would say. This is one, I wanted to bring this up because I did think your response on the controversial topic was so eloquent. I think what we need in America is more conversation culture and less cancel culture.
Yeah.
People, look, because I keep going back to the thing, there's three sides to every story.
Yeah.
There's your perception, my perception, and then the reality of it.
Yeah.
And without really giving each other the platform to talk about complicated issues, it becomes difficult to ever address solutions to any of those. And that's actually where the people who profit from it get the most benefit. That's who, the only person who wins that situation is when we can't have a conversation so they can go and do whatever they want.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I mean, being a lawyer, man, you have, say you have an accident, 5 people in the accident. All 5 of those people, completely different story. What everybody has to realize, and you realize this being an attorney, if you're a good attorney, is that everybody is looking at things not from their own vantage point, but from their advantage point. So when everybody is putting their own bias and their influence, and I don't care what anybody says, everybody is biased and everyone is influenced because not because you're doing it on purpose, but bias, the real definition of it is related to the fact that you just have your own experiences and perspectives and like the things that you've learned. If you've learned something wrong, then you're going to obviously have a bias that's probably improper. But if you learned it right and the other person has a different opinion because they learned it incorrectly, then they have a wrong bias, right? So you are always going to have a bias based on whatever you see and whatever you experience, and you can't remove that. You can try your best based on maybe knowing what objective fact is like, but the chances are 99% of the time, there's always going to be some sort of bias or influence based off of your life experiences. And so you have to take people for what their stories are, and you have to heal. And then for you, it's up to, as human beings, to determine what you feel is the truth.
Yeah. Critical thinking.
Important
skill.
It terrifies a lot of people because a lot of people, I think, you know, for me, I know I was not told as a child that it was okay to listen to my intuition. I had to do things a certain way and be a certain way. I had to follow a certain path. And as I've gone older, I am very much in tune with my intuition. I can feel in a moment whether this is the right or the wrong decision and whether I feel like someone's saying the truth or they're lying to me. But I think that based on how you're raised and based on your life experiences, if you're not in tune with that internal like navigation, then a lot of times you can be out of whack. And a lot of times you're scared because then once you start turning into it, you might realize, oh shit, I've been ignoring this my whole life. And so things can change very quickly. Yeah.
Well, what can people do now from here?
I think just start listening to what your heart and what your gut is telling you. Your gut, I think, is, you know, a big part of like, it's just feeling into your knowing, right? What Aubrey Marcus calls is like your gnosis. Like you feel things and you just know things. And it's like when you walk up to some dude or some girl and you're like, this person is shady. They don't have to say a word. They don't have to do anything. I can literally just feel it in my body that there's something wrong here. And don't get me wrong, you can get tricked, but I think the more that you get in tune with your intuition, the easier it becomes to make decisions and the easier it becomes to make choices. One activity that I like to do sometimes when I have a big choice to make, I close my eyes and I ask like a yes or no question. and I'll put the yes in one hand and the no in one hand. And you'll start to feel pretty immediately. One will feel you'll feel your stomach grind. You're like sick. You'll feel darkness, and then like the other one, you'll feel open and light, almost like inspired in a way. So like this is a practice that I did for a long time before I was just able to naturally feel into things on the fly. But this is a way just of getting in touch with your intuition, and it's a tool that I've used. I recommend it for anybody listening.
That's a super cool tool.
Yeah,
intuition's everything. And how about you? How are we doing on time?
So we have about 10 minutes, I would say, before we got to start closing things up here. I know we're going to be a bit late, right, Zev? I'll apologize to the girls and talk to them.
Yeah, we're at 1 hour, 50 minutes right now.
Yeah. So I guess I'm trying to think if there's any specific topics that we really want to cover.
Let's talk some relationships. Let's talk dating in LA, Southern California dating, 2024.
Yeah.
What's going on? So you said you've got a couple girlfriends or something. You were like, oh, all the girls I date. I'm like. I was like, uh-oh. I thought I saw a wedding ring on there.
No, definitely not a wedding ring.
Oh.
These are more just rings to wear. I guess what I'll say is, as of right now in my life, I made a commitment to being single because I was pretty much in relationships for like 12 years in a row.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that I can date multiple girls. I am looking for the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with. I do want a family. I do want to have kids.
Yeah.
This is extremely important to me, but the only way that you can find your partner is you have to go on dates and you have to meet people. And it's not that I'm like dating multiple girls at the same time. It's more like I go on a date and after like a date or two, I'm like, this is not my person.
Right.
And it's like, once again, getting better and better in touch with my intuition. And so it's like, you know, the balance between being lonely, wanting to hang out with people, but also like recognizing I'm getting older and not wanting to spend too much time with the wrong person just because of my insecurities and my need for attention and love.
Yeah.
And so I'm like trying to balance all that, but definitely I'm looking for the person that I do want to spend the rest of my life with because I do want a family and that stuff is very important to me.
Yeah.
What's your experience?
Well, I will tell you, I never got the dating multiple people thing.
Yeah.
I can barely keep up with one person at a time. And dating in LA and Orange County, it's gotten so expensive, right? Like, and I feel for the people who are like,
It is expensive.
got to get the hair done, got to get their nails done.
Yep.
They got to get the Brazilian, right? And they got to shave their legs.
Yeah.
And that's the men in LA. You know, it's like the women are they got it even harder, and so
I definitely want to come see one of your comedy shows.
It's definitely not getting any easier to date in LA. Multiple people is off the table, and the terrifying thing about marriage, though, right? You see the statistics. 50% of them actually end up lasting forever. That's what's terrifying to me. So I don't know. That's you know, it's a tough time to marry. You know, everybody is out for themselves.
I've never heard anyone say that. Especially being a lawyer, you just hear this. The 56% of people always get divorced, but I guess 44% stay together. That's terrifying.
That is it is a little depending on what your outcome is, right?
I know you're just getting out of a marriage yourself. Right?
I am. Yes. All I got out of the divorce was 10 minutes of very solid stand-up. So I'm really grateful to my ex-wife for
won.
that. Yeah, we're having a great time. Main reason I got into stand-up because she would call herself a comedian, but she's more like a social media comedian. Yeah. So I was like, you know, if you really want to be a comedian, you should get into stand-up. And so she gets horrible stage fright. So we had written a lot of stuff together, and then she was like, I was in, you know, this relationship where she would just like put down every good idea I had. In fact, to the point where it was like, if she was putting it down, I knew it was a good idea. Yeah. So she was like, you'll never do stand-up comedy. I'm like, shit, I'd probably be pretty good at stand-up comedy. So I jumped in, and now, I had two options. I was like, okay, therapy is $300 an hour, or stand-up comedy, I can make $150 in 5 minutes. Yeah. So I was like, let's give the comedy a chance first, just for the economics of it. Yeah. But the dating is so easy to make fun of right now, because it's truly like comical, right? And I moved. Part of the reason I moved from, because I lived like 6 blocks away from here for 5 years. I just moved 2 months ago. Yeah. So I was living in Orange County, but
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I lived at Marquee.
Oh, nice.
In Irvine over there.
Yeah, I know exactly.
I love Marquee.
Yeah.
So
OC is great.
OC is the best if you're married.
Fair.
That's
been something I've struggled with. I just Uber up to LA or San Diego every weekend. I don't have any self-control, none whatsoever. So like when I lived down there, I was just going out all the time.
Yes.
So I have to like contemplate going out. I
Yep.
sit in the Uber ride for an hour and I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, what decisions am I going to make tonight? And then like also not only that, but it's good because, you know, since I live so far away, it's like there's a certain time I'm like, it's time to go home.
Yep.
Yeah, because I have another hour-long Uber drive
Yep.
to go home. So I make much wiser decisions.
That's part of the reason I moved to Orange County originally is
Yeah.
because there's just so much to do in LA.
Yeah.
Now I'm just kind of tired and indifferent, so like
Yeah.
I don't really fall for the FOMO as hard as I used to. But
Yeah.
I moved out to Orange County 5 years ago with the intention of wanting to get married.
Yeah.
Then I realized after being divorced, I was like, dating in OC, you're really restricted to like early 20s girls that have seen it all. You're competing with like private jets, yachts, like all this stuff. So that's actually part of the reason I started trying to be funny, because I was like, I can't compete with money. So, and I don't have abs and I don't have that much money. So I got to have something to bring to the table here. So I was able to figure out if I can make these girls laugh, I can save myself a lot of money. So, but then it's like, okay, so you're restricted to basically like 19 to 23-year-olds that will only date you on like the day that they're like Muhammad's jet isn't available or whatever, right? And then or 39 to like 60-year-olds who are coming out of their like first, second, third, fourth, fifth divorce.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to go to LA, even as like, even if, you know, as terrifying as it is to date in LA, you definitely don't want to be sleeping around in LA. That's a dark, sunny place for shady people. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But there is a lot more opportunity to like meet creative people and cool people. I got pretty lucky. I met a really nice Romanian girl, pretty traditional.
Yeah.
She's a model. She's doing pretty good. I'm dating her. But obviously, as you know, my stand-up comedy is mostly about like making fun of Russian people because my ex-wife was Russian. So when things don't work out with the Romanian girl, I'll have a new 10-minute set. You can see how I feel about Romanian women after that. But
After 10 women, you'll have or after 6 women, you'll have an hour.
yeah, I'm working on that stand-up special. So man, no, I've had the 6 women. Trust me, I could do a lot more than an hour. But I will tell you, we can wrap this up if you want. But I will tell you, being married, divorced, dating, I've learned a lot about what's important in people finding a partner. Okay, and I'll leave your audience with this.
Yeah, this is perfect. I was going to ask you, what do you want to leave the audience with?
Let's leave the audience with how to, partnership, especially in Southern California, but this applies anywhere in the world. So the person you spend your life with, right, or how you spend your life, you want, at least, I want, or you want, maybe you want a woman who's beautiful. You want a woman who supports your career and can really help you, achieve your goals. Obviously, you probably want a woman who's great in bed. It's not a bad thing.
Not a horrible aspect.
And you want a woman who is going to be a great mother and raise your children. Now, the most important thing I've learned is make sure these 4 women never meet. All right? That's
so stupid, but I like it.
That's it. Well,
that was hilarious.
That's it. That's all I got.
I think it's a great note to add on. This podcast was honestly amazing. We went back and forth between the emotions and the comedy. So
yes.
I appreciate you breaking it up because it's nice. It's like
we laughed, we cried.
Yeah, we laughed, we cried.
We called out the CCP.
Yeah,
everything.
But as everybody should.
Yeah.
It's like nice because you help to alchemize serious moments into like something funny. So it helps to break up the energy and also allows us to transition into different conversations, which you're using deep psychological techniques, which I know that you're using them, but you're doing a great job. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
This was a fun conversation.
Had a blast, man.
And yeah, we're tuning out. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode. We go all over the place, and yeah, tune in for the next one.
Awesome.